Stephen A. Smith, Stephen A. Smith. I'm going to tell you a reason why this guy right here that's on my screen is so confused. And it's not even hard to understand. Hey, what's going on, folks? You know, it's your boy Jay here with another video. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for all content related to my channel. First of all, let's talk about Stephen A. Smith. Now, Stephen A. Smith has done a lot of political content lately on his channel, his YouTube channel. And you know, he also works for ESPN, the Woke Sports Network. I call it the Woke Sports Network because they all they do is sports and do wokeness and all that stuff. And that's why I'm not the biggest fan of ESPN. Only time I watch ESPN is when I watch Get Up and when I watch First Take. That's the only time I watch ESPN, and when they got football on, basketball, stuff like that. So Stephen A. Smith, let's talk about Stephen A. Smith a little bit. Stephen A. Smith is probably the top ratings draw for ESPN besides Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee was self-made. Stephen A. Smith rose up through the ranks in ESPN, and now he's the executive producer of First Take. First Take is his show. First Take is his baby. And Stephen A. Smith is up for a contract. Now, Stephen A. Smith has also been on different podcasts, different channels or whatever, and talked about his political beliefs and stuff like that. Now, we're going to get to a clip where Stephen A. Smith actually went on Fox News and talked about maybe voting Republican. So first of all, let's get to that clip, man, because Stephen A. Smith, honestly, this is where he lost me. This is where Stephen A. Smith pretty much lost me when he went on this platform right here. So let's get to that, man. This is from Fox News, and this is him talking about the whole situation. Fair use.
Yourself, seeing what you see now, and obviously Donald Trump can't run for president again, but if he could, under the current circumstances, could you see yourself voting for him?
Quite possibly. I'm not going to sit up there and dismiss that anymore. I think we're beyond that. He would have to prove a lot, Mark. And I'm not talking about policy now. For a second, allow me to say this. What concerned me about Donald Trump, and the reason I voted against him and voted for Kamala Harris, was because I felt that he would be divisive, that he would create chaos because he demands such a level of loyalty and fealty to him. And that would take priority over governing our nation. That was my concern. And so I'm looking for both sides to work across the aisle from one another. Having said that, when you see some of the things that he said, if he follows through on some of the things that he has said, it's not just about eradicating inflation, improving the economy, obviously controlling our borders. These are all things that I care about. Make no mistake about that. And I certainly would support him in that regard. But it can't be just about fealty to him and loyalty to him. It has to be about getting the job done on behalf of what's in the best interest of the American people, as opposed to yourself, and not engaging in the kind of juvenile tendencies, tweeting all the time and going after people who are really much irrelevant in the grand scheme of things. You do things like that and you show that you're the adult in the room. Yeah. I don't think anybody could dismiss Donald Trump at this particular moment in time, not just because of him, but because of what we've seen the Democrats do. We're not falling for it any longer.
See, this is the thing, Stephen A., that you have to understand. The reason why Donald Trump became the 47th president is because you're right. People are starting to realize that the Democratic Party was a sham. It's a sham. I realized that. A lot of people that I know realize that. You still have some people who are still on the fence about it. But yes. But the problem I had with guys like Stephen A. Smith is you want to go one way. In your heart, you want to go one way. But when you look at your pockets, you can't go that way because that's going to hurt your bottom line as far as your money's concerned. Your money's have you leaning another way. But in your heart of mind and your mind of minds, you want to go another way. Let's continue.
American people aren't falling for it any longer. I voted Democrat, and I got to tell you something right now. I don't like the fact that I did. I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't want to hear about, oh, we're about law. We're about a law. Nobody's above the law. Nobody's above the law. But then you go out and you pardon your son and you try to blame everybody else for it. I don't want to hear about defund the police. I don't want to hear about, what there should be open borders. I don't want to hear this stuff. And I don't think most of the American people want to hear that. We're thinking about the state of affairs that's in. We're not about America only, but being about America and prioritizing what's going on in this nation with the desolate and the disenfranchised and everybody else in between, and looking out for the best interest of what it is for America. That is not a crime for an American politician or commander in chief or a senator or a congressional figure to have that mentality. I want them to have that mentality. So I think about things along those lines. And I'm no longer interested in, nor do I believe any of us should be interested in listening to a bunch of fear mongering to tell us who we shouldn't vote for. Why don't you come up with a plan that tells us why we should vote for you? That's what I'm interested in. And if Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, Byron Donald, Marco Rubio, or the host of other Republican candidates coming down the pike, that's the kind of message that they're going to put forth, I'm down for it. I'm open-minded enough to make sure that I entertain that from a policy perspective. That's what I want for the American people. That's what I want for this nation.
That's why we love you, my man. Now, one quick question. I don't have a lot of time left.
Sure.
You get this all the time. Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
Well, they're going to talk about the Super Bowl, but let's get back to it, man. What Stephen A. Smith said was 1,000% correct. And I don't know why when somebody is telling the truth that you have to go back and retract what you said. If you said what you said on Fox News, stand on what you said. The problem is, the thing is, people don't have a problem when you tell people what you really stand on. The problem Stephen A. Smith has is now that you said something, you got to retract it, because you know why he had to retract it? Because the people he worked for at ESPN don't like that crap. They don't like that crap. And I'm going to tell you something. When your pockets are aligned with people like ESPN, when your pockets are aligned with people who are far left, like CNN, MSNBC, ESPN, ABC, CBS, all these corporate media, what happens is now you can't think the way you want to think. So, Stephen A., I got a question for you. Why are you going to all these right-based platforms speaking one way, and then you go on your podcast and do this? You know what I'm saying? A lot of times, honestly, when guys like Stephen A. Smith, they do things like this, it makes me wonder. Sometimes it really makes me wonder, because it shows me that you don't have the cojones. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next clip. And this is Stephen A. Smith on his podcast talking about where he stands as far as the Democratic Party, because this to me shows me that he doesn't have the cojones to talk about what he wants to talk about. So let's go ahead and watch this clip in full time. Fair use.
Some political talk, specifically my conversation on Fox News this weekend with the one and only Mark Levin. They call him the Great One, conservative radio host throughout the country. Plus, you can catch him on Patriot Radio on Sirius XM, channel 125. He's been a phenomenal host there for years. Nevertheless, I appeared on his show, Life, Liberty, and Levin, which airs on Fox News on Saturday nights and Sunday nights. And while I was there, I gave my thoughts on the 2024 election and expressed some regret about what has transpired with the Democrats and Vice President Kamala Harris. And I've said this on many, many occasions. I don't like what I'm seeing from the Democratic Party. I said it on Life, Liberty, and Levin to Mark Levin himself. I've said it to this audience on various occasions. I'm saying it again now. Nobody's backing up from it. Nevertheless, I have to tell you that, and I don't blame Mark Levin for this, but did you see the headline on Fox News? Did you see it? Did you see it? In case you didn't see it, put it up there for us, folks. Let them see it right there. Look at that headline right there. Stephen A. Smith regrets backing Vice President Harris, open to voting GOP, not interested in the fear mongering. Before I go to the actual clip of what I literally said, so I can show you all myself, let me state for the record, I throw no fault in the direction of Mark Levin for the headlines. As a reporter, as a commentator and pundit throughout the years, there have been many, many times where I have said something and having no responsibility for the headlines whatsoever. The headlines didn't completely accurately portray what I had said. So
hold on. First of all, now you backtracking because that's what you said though. The only difference is, as a matter of fact, let's go back to that. Let's go back to that clip right there. Let's go back to what that says on that clip. Now, it says Stephen A. Smith regrets backing hers, open to voting GOP, not interested in fear mongering. Now, didn't you say you regret backing Kamala Harris? You said that in that clip. You also said if everything goes correctly, you will be open to voting GOP. You said that in the clip. And then you said the fear mongering is why a lot of people tend to vote the way they vote. You said that, Stephen A. And this is why you're confused. Because it's not that you don't think the way you think. It's because people who pay your bills and give you your paycheck is telling you have to do this. Don't tell me that you're doing this on your own. Don't tell me that ESPN, who is owned by Disney, didn't come to you and say you better fix this. Don't tell me that, because I know, and so many other people who have covered this story knows that's what you're doing. Let's get back to what he's saying. Fair use.
Completely accurately portray what I had said. So if I've gone through that, I'm certainly not going to blame Mark Levin, nor would I ever accuse him of misrepresenting me. Just like I've been friends with Sean Hannity for over 20 years, that also applies to Mark Levin, who I've also known now pretty much 20 plus years. So he is a friend. He is somebody that I communicate with often. No, we do not agree on a lot of our politics, just as is the case for Sean Hannity. But I respect those guys, and I've known them for years, and they've always watched my back, always. And I always appreciate that, and I'm always going to do the same for them. So it's not about that. But it is important that you all know exactly what I said, because headlines like that turn to go viral. So without further ado, this is just a small clip of Mark Levin asking me the question that he asked, and I want you to listen to my answer. Here it is.
Stephen A. Smith, so could you see yourself seeing what you see now? And obviously Donald Trump can't run for president again, but if he could, under the current circumstances, could you see yourself voting for him?
Anywhere in that headline, did you hear me say, I regret voting for Kamala Harris? You did not hear me say that. But I understand how it's a fine line.
See, the thing is that you said maybe you didn't say it, but the way you presented it, you makes it feel like you regretted voting for Kamala Harris. We know you voted for Kamala Harris because you are a self-proclaimed Democrat. You say you're independent, but we know you are voting on the Democratic side. But then when you say, oh, I voted for somebody, but then I regret voting for the Democrat that I voted for because I don't agree with what they're saying, you don't have to say I regret voting for Kamala Harris. You regretted voting for him because of which you didn't say it verbatim, but the actions and the words that you said make it seem like you regretted voting for him because you don't like how the Democratic Party is being aligned these days. And this is what confuses people. It doesn't confuse me. It's confusing your pockets. That's what it's confusing. And the sad thing is that when I look at people like Stephen A. Smith, I try to give people like Stephen A. Smith a chance because you know what? He's a real intelligent guy. He knows what he's talking about. But sometimes this is why you don't mix sports with politics. You work for a sports network. Sports and politics don't match. I don't want to hear Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson or Luka Doncic or LeBron James talk about politics. Now, if you want to talk about it in your spare time and you want to kind of do it that way, do it that way. But see, when these athletes and these people who cover the NBA and the NFL and MLB, they do all that talking about politics, you put yourself in a bind. Because if you are a NFL player, let's say a la Nick Bosa, who had a Trump hat, and he photobombed Brock Purdy, and you see what happened. ESPN jumped on that real quick. But if it was a Kamala Harris hat, nobody would have said anything. Let's get back to Stephen A. Smith. Now, when I see Stephen A. Smith, I see a person who's a double agent. You want to go one way because this is how you truly feel. But you're going to go another way because it affects your pockets. It affects your bottom line. That's a capitalist mentality. Most Americans who are in the position that Stephen A. Smith is in, they have a capitalist mentality. Let's continue.
Because I do have my trepidations and feelings of disgust when it comes to the Democratic Party, how they handled things leading up to the election, how they handled the year prior to the election with Joe Biden refusing to step away and going back on his word to be a transitional president. OK, I don't like the fact that, they got $1.5 billion and, next thing you know, we're looking for where the money went. I don't like the fact that people like Oprah Winfrey and others were paid before doing interviews with Kamala Harris. I don't like a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of it smells. But I think it's important to make this point. And this is directly aimed at conservative media. It may be because they've been vilified for years and they found themselves to be at a distinct disadvantage when it comes to the leftists on the media side. I get that part. But it doesn't negate the fact that when it comes to conservative media, they won't hesitate to misrepresent your words a bit for a better pro-Trump, anti-Democrat headline.
But see, Stephen A. Smith, I get what you're saying. But the left does that as well. The left does that as well. If you really focus and study how both sides work, that's how both sides work. I'm not saying Stephen A. Smith is wrong. I mean, the right, they do it, but the left does it as well. And this is one thing that Donald Trump said. Donald Trump says they will take, and see, I've seen this personally with CNN. They'll take a small snippet of a clip, run with the 30 seconds of the clip instead of playing the whole clip. This is why I go to places like Ground News and get my news, because it takes each story and it grades the story. If it's a far left story, a far right story, or dead center. This is why I tell people do their research. Now, Stephen A. Smith knew when he went on Fox News that they were going to do this. He knows that. Why is he surprised? He shouldn't be surprised. If he would have went on CNN, they would have did the same stuff. This is how the media works. You've been in media for over 30 years, Stephen A. Smith. You know this is how the media works. The media works that way. He should have known that. I don't understand why he's surprised. Let's continue.
Because indeed they like having prominent, influential voices come over to their way of thinking. To some of them, not all, not most, but to some of them, it's like, oh my goodness, there are a lot of folks out there, that do think like us, that do side with us, that do favor our mode of thinking. And we're not as alienated as you think. And I think there's a lot of folks within conservative media that are prone to doing something like that. Just like you can look on the left, because the liberal media will misrepresent your words in a heartbeat to make you seem more extreme, and to work very, very hard to tie you in with the Trump and the MAGA folks. We've seen that happen to me.
Yeah, I mean, you know what happens on the left. You know what happens on the right. So why are you surprised? You know why you surprised? Or I don't think you're surprised. You knew this was going to happen. I'll tell you why. You're saying what you're saying now. Because the folks at ESPN told you to do that. Don't give me that, oh, I seen this go viral and now I gotta go ahead and go back. No. If you stand on it, stand on it. This is why people don't like Stephen A. Smith as much. I'm not the biggest Stephen A. Smith fan. Does he make good points? Yes, he makes good points. But the reason why is because you jump from side to side too many times. And when you jump from side to side too many times, this is what happens. This is exactly what happens. People are going to take your words and misconstrue them. I know people will probably take this video and misconstrue what I say. But at the end of the day, Stephen A. Smith needs to realize this is going to happen. Media does what media wants to do. We know ESPN is paying your bills. We know ESPN is going to give you that bag. So why are you surprised of what conservative media does? I'm not surprised that ESPN probably told you to come out and make this statement. I know ESPN did. You ain't gonna say they didn't. But that's the reason why I had to make this video. Because you keep on flip-flopping. You flip-flop so much. Sometimes, man, and I got advice. I got some advice for Stephen A. Smith. He may not listen to this. He may not even see this video. But if somebody clip this video and send it to him. Bruh, just stick to sports. Just stick to sports. You don't have your own independent. You're not independent. You're not an independent contractor. You're not like the fat Jason Whitlock or Marcellus Wiley or guys who have their own platforms that they could talk about stuff like this. Yes, you have a big platform, the Stephen A. Smith Show on YouTube, but you also work for ESPN. And when you work for woke ESPN, some things you can't say. Even if you have your own platform, you can't say it. You can't go on Fox News, can't go on News Nation and say what you're saying, because ESPN gonna be like, hold on, man, you're messing our bottom line up. Our sponsors don't like what you're saying, so you better take it back. Let's continue.
On both sides. So I just felt the need to say that because it's important that people understand. I'm gonna say it again, and I'm gonna have it put up on the screen every time I'm on this show and I'm talking politics. I am an independent. I am not a Democrat. So I am apologizing for anything anti-Dem that I may say. Nor am I a Republican. And I'm certainly not apologizing for that. I have things that I am conservative about, and I have things I am liberal about. I am a staunch conservative when it comes to my money. I'm a fiscal conservative. You damn right. I ain't apologizing to nobody. My man Brandon's in the studio. You got a problem with that, B? I don't have a problem. You got a problem with that? Betty, you got a problem with that? You better not have a problem with it. I am a fiscal conservative. I can't stand these damn high taxes in New York, New Jersey, and California. Okay? So trust you me, anytime I can get away with moving to another place and not having to pay them damn taxes, I'm not going to hesitate. Let's get that out the way. But I'm very liberal when it comes to living and let living. It doesn't matter whether I approve or disapprove, whether I like or don't like. I believe in living and let living. That's how I roll. Gay rights, abortion rights, whatever the case may be, live your life. Live your life. You understand? You want to be transgender? Go ahead and be transgender. You're a gay individual? Go ahead. Live your life. Now, when you try to say you're a guy and that you're transitioning into being a lady and you want to compete against women, now we got a problem.
Now you got a problem. Now you got a problem when that happens. I think most people, I don't care if you're on the left or on the right, have a problem with that. Honestly, I mean, I've had a problem with that for a while, like Slim, like, and this isn't to say anything against the transgender community, but this is why I've always been the type of person to say, you know what, if you want to compete with other transgenders. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna touch that subject because that's a real staunch subject. But yeah, man, you know, the one thing that Stephen A. Smith needs to realize is that you can't play both sides. You can't play both sides, especially when ESPN is paying it give you a paycheck. When a woke left company that's owned by Disney is paying your money or paying your bills, you can't play both sides. I understand you want to play both sides, but you know, I've seen the comments in the videos and people are saying, bruh, why are you playing both sides? This is the same Stephen A. Smith. Nothing has changed. All these things. But Stephen A. Smith, you got to realize, bruh, and I'm going to end with this. You're confused. You are confused. You know you're confused. Because on one side, you say, I'm a staunch Republican when it comes to my money, but I am a staunch Democrat when it comes to rights and all that. I understand that. You know what I'm saying? LGBTQ rights, all that. I'm with you on that. You know what I'm saying? You know, if a person want to be like that, let them be like that. I understand that. But you can't go on a conservative podcast or conservative channel, say something, and don't think it's going to be turned around to fit the narrative. You know it's going to be, you know for a fact it was going to fit the narrative that they wanted to push. This is why guys like you need to stick to sports. I understand you, and I understand, like, if you decide, you know, you want to step away from ESPN and get more into the political arena, that's something different. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you're a double agent. Like, half the time you on ESPN, you're one way, but then when you on News Nation or Fox News or CNN or whatever, you're another way. Like, you can't be a double agent. Stick to one side. And a lot of people listen to your first take. They don't really care about you. You know what I'm saying? Your political views. They want your take on sports. That's all they want. That's all I want. I want your take on sports. I like when you're a Mad Dog be arguing, man. That's my favorite day. On Wednesdays. I watch it on Wednesdays. Mad Dog on there, get you and Mad Dog get into it. I like that. But at the end of the day, Stephen A. Smith needs to realize, bro, you can't play both sides. And I'm going to leave it at that. It's your boy Jay here with another video. If you like the content, hit that like button, also the subscribe button. On my road to 1,000 subscribers. Let's get the conversation started. What do you think about this whole Stephen A. Smith situation? Get in the comments. Let's get the conversation started. Until next time, folks, I'm out.